What's going on, my friends? Simchal Fitness here, and today I will talk to you guys about a subject that's not really spoken about much in the YouTube fitness community, but I feel really needs to be, and that is the subject of blenders. Right now, who cares? First, before we get into the subject of blenders, why should we care about blenders? Well, for the unaware, a blender is the staple piece of hardware that you need to ensure that you can maintain a proper protein intake diet. Usually it's pertaining to protein or some type of mass gainer, but if you want protein in your diet, you need to become very, very educated about the subject of blenders. It's very, very important that you understand this, because unfortunately the way our society works is we're not always in a place to get a constant stream of protein, which is actually ideal. You're supposed to have about 6 meals throughout the day, and each one of them are supposed to have protein in them so you can make the maximum amount of muscular gains. And I'm just starting to learn these concepts, and I've been lifting for 9 or 10 years. And at one point I was 200 pounds. Now I've slimmed down to about 165, 170, and I'm nearly as strong as I was when I was 200 pounds. And that's all thanks to clean eating, but it's also thanks to my selection of hardware that I use to maintain the proper diet and do so in a way that ensures longevity, and ensures a way that I can get through my day without having to be bogged down by hardware that doesn't perform its function on a day-to-day basis in a smooth way. So enough talking. Let's get right into it. There's two types of designs for every blender out there. There's the standard type of design, which is the two-piece design, which is you have the cup, right, and you have the motor, right, and you put the cup on the motor and then you press the button. Usually these types of blenders have like 6 to 8 buttons on the bottom. Personally, this one is a really cheap one. It has one button on the bottom. I actually prefer this one when I'm on the go rather than to those ones that your grandma had growing up. And we all have seen those, right? I don't have one personally, but we've all seen them, right? They got the big bucket pitcher, and you screw it on with a lid, and they got 8 buttons on the bottom with pure, chop, and what have you. Okay, now the second design, and this one is unfortunately taking the blending industry by storm, and is far more common today, is the three-piece design: the blade, the cup or container, and finally the motor. And the idea is you fill up the material, or the protein shake, the powder, your banana, whatever you're putting in here, and you seal it off with a blade of your choice. Usually these things come with a couple of blades, and usually they come with a couple of containers as well. And you sort of have to fight with it to finally it threads. But you see how I had to fight with it to get it to seal, and then once you push it in, you turn it upside down and you push it in, and it does its thing. And usually what happens is when you have to take it off, because you were just, usually these things are super powerful and super heavy, I might add. They're usually about this one's I think half a horsepower. For your information, that's enough to run a treadmill. I think there's treadmills out there with about 1 horsepower, and this is about half a horsepower. So these are way more powerful than they need to be. And one demonstration of it, you can easily it easily showcases the absurd power that these things have, which is both dangerous and not necessary. But what usually happens is, because of the immense suction that's created, the gasket around between the blade and the cup usually creates a very big suction, which makes it very, very difficult to unscrew. Now, obviously, it was much easier for me to unscrew just now because I didn't turn it on. But had I have material in here, such as protein powder or whatever is in here, and then I went ahead and I turned it on, it would have created that suction, and it would have made it a lot more difficult to unscrew. And that might not seem like a big deal, but day after day of fighting with this thing, and you can even hear that gasket squeaking in there. I mean, even without the suction, it's still, you have to wrench it. And usually what I'll even do is I'll opt for the one with the handle, give me a little bit of a torque on there so I can have something to pull on. But what I noticed is on the other one, it started cracking because I would torque it too hard. It's just bad engineering. And that's the point I'm trying to make. And not to mention, I didn't even mention about the gasket that gets in here. I mean, I did mention it, but I didn't show it to you guys. The gasket that gets in here becomes filthy. Now, I don't know if you guys can see that, but pretty much all around the rim over here, you got a gasket, and it's full of grum and yuck and grime. And I've tried to scrape that out for the life of me. I've really tried, because I'm a little bit of a germaphobe when it comes to my blenders. And just when it comes to blenders, I'm not usually a germaphobe, but when it comes to like liquids and blenders and just mixing stuff up, I'm a real germaphobe. So that like annoys the hell out of me that you got all that crust over there. I don't know if you guys can see that, but you'll have to believe me that there is all kind of schmutz and just it's gross. I mean, it came off on my fingernail, and that's what I'm ingesting, and that's just because I decided to pick it out with the knife. So, and unfortunately, the unfortunate reality is the majority of the blenders that are marketed these days are marketed with the Fatical Fitness guru or guppy in mind, where they're doing a crash diet or the ketogenic diet or Weight Watchers diet or some type of diet, and that's what these pieces of machinery are marketed for, because that's going to be the vast target market and target audience for these types of that's who's going to buy these types of things. And the same has to do with the one that my wife and I just bought, which we thought it was a two-piece design, but upon opening it, you see that little blender piece over there. This is actually a three-piece design. And so now we're going to return that back to where actually bought it at Aldi, and we're going to return this because it's not a two-piece design. The two-piece design is the way to go, because what happens is you'll just go ahead, you'll pour your stuff inside, your protein powder, your banana, your milk, whatever it is, and you'll go ahead, you put it on, and you push the button, and if it's plugged in, right, if it's plugged in, then it'll turn right on. So once again, take two, and then you take it off and you're ready to go, and you walk out the door. Versus having to deal with all this stress and difficulty. Not to mention that this blender is about half a pound. This blender is probably closer to 5, 6, or maybe even 7 pounds. So there's also that difference there. If you were to drop this on somebody, you could probably kill them. I mean, I wish I could hand it to you right now, and you could see how I mean, it's a hefty chunk of hardware. And when you're reaching underneath your pantry to try to grab it out, that could be really, really annoying, especially because it's got them rubber feet on there. So you're trying to drag it across what is usually a kitchen countertop, and it'll really hold on to itself, and it'll, you'll have to, you'll have to really, it gets annoying. Versus you just pick this guy up, there's no rubber feet holding this down. So you just pick it up and do what you got to do and be out the door. Because that's the whole point. What we're trying to do here at Simchal Fitness is the key is we want maintainable fitness. We want to do things in a way that allows us to maintain our diets day after day, month after month, year after year. We're not looking for the fast shortcut. We're looking for something that's maintainable year in, year out. So this way we don't have to worry about all the nuances of the hardware that's not upholding our diet, that's not making our diet and our lives easier. Because in the end of the day, it's all about the results. And if these blenders, these very, very fatical sort of groupie blenders over here that are being marketed for monetary purposes, they're not going to serve the goals. They're just being marketed to those, buy now sort of as seen on TV type of audiences. The type of audiences that's going to see this blender and think to themselves, "Oh, hey, from their couch watching their TV, and they're going to think, well, if I just get this blender, my life's going to change, and I'm going to have these, I'm going to obtain, the body I've always dreamed of." When in actuality, they just need to clean up their diet and get out there, lift a weight, and start exercising. That's who these blenders are marketed towards. But towards fitness enthusiasts who are really dedicated to making a life change, you really want to go with the two-piece design. And, you know, I wish somebody had told me this back when I was, you know, about 3 years ago, when I was still struggling with this guy. And, you know, every single day I would have to take this to work and you know, find an office where I can go ahead and I could blend this thing. And this was back before I was self-employed. But it sucked because my boss would come in, they asked me what the hell I'm doing. And like I said, this thing's about a half a horsepower, so it makes all the noise in the world. I don't know if you heard this one just a second ago, but it's a nice quiet design. So for those of you who like to get up and jog in the morning, you know, on something like this, a light little smoothie shake. I mean, you put a nice little foam top on it. You could barely hear that. Now, to juxtapose, you know, for reference, let's see how loud the other one is, right? You're going to wait. For those of you who like to get up and jog early in the morning, it's going to wake up the whole house. I mean, it's like a freaking aircraft engine. So it's like a jet engine. So just these are just some of the reasons why you want to go with the two-piece design. You want to get yourself a simple design. When this one breaks, I'm just going to go out there and buy one just like it. I'm never going to deviate from this particular two-piece design. And that's all there is to say on the subject. Like I said, I wish somebody would have told me about this sooner because if they had, it would have saved me a lot of time and it would have saved me a lot of headache. That's about all that I have to say on the matter. I hope it's been informative, and I'll talk to you guys next time.